Hi, welcome to Discussions of Music, Healing, and Consciousness with your hosts, Chris Noble and Bill Prodsman. In today's episode, we're talking all about music technology, how it's expanding and evolving in this day and age, and the interesting aspects that it brings to musical performances, whether they be in person or online. We'll go into the details regarding online performances versus in-person performances, how in-person performances are being augmented with technology nowadays to create a more hybrid experience, whereas online performances offer a really unique way to interact and engage with your favorite artists in a new way. We'll be talking about this and lots of other things, as always, in our open conversations here on Discussions of Music, Healing, and Consciousness. I was, what you were saying there about live streaming kind of got me thinking about the sacredness of music, because you started talking about how, back, of course, in the day when we had LPs or records or, CDs, even tapes, there was this sacred nature. I remember different bands that I loved growing up, like Radiohead, when they had their, one of their really amazing, I think it was their first independent album release, which was In Rainbows. And they famously released it as a pay what you can, or here's a major artist coming out and actually offering a pay what you can model for their latest release. And I still just went, I remember waiting outside the store in Canada called HMV. I don't know if HMV was outside of Canada, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just a record store. And I was waiting for that to open just so I could get in there and get that CD. And, there was that sacred or exciting element of waiting. You had to wait because music was limited. It wasn't available all the time, anytime. And there was a bit more of a sacred nature to it. Now, the flip side is, like, if you took streaming away from me, I'd be pretty pissed, because I love having all this amazing music available immediately. So what do you think, Bill? Is there like a middle ground in there somewhere that we might be finding right now? There's like bringing the sacred nature back to music, but keeping the available options open.
I hope so. The craziness about licensing has really gone like far swing to one side of whatever the pendulum swings. And that includes software licensing and streaming everything and all the stuff that you still buy. Like if you buy a movie that you download, you don't actually have that downloaded movie. You have access to someone else's server on which your purchase of that movie resides, right? And that's not a bad way of looking at the whole thing. My wife's a painter, so when she paints an image and sells it, she retains the copyright to the image, even though the person who purchased the media owns the original version of it, right? But that comes with responsibilities. They have they can't leverage their purchase for any economic gain of their own. If they did that, they'd be subject to the copyright law that exists, that governs the way that these things work. Same with music. I mean, you go out and plagiarize something, you're breaking the law. You go out and resell somebody else's music without a license, you're breaking the law. And so the whole thing about this, instead of being owned by the creatives and the consumers, is now owned by the attorneys. And thank you, attorneys. You've done a good job at helping us protect our intellectual property. But there are ways that doesn't help. Like when you want to be able to reach someone with your music, what's the most effective way of doing that? Hey, it's great to have instant access to everything, right? Spotify's awesome. Streaming services are awesome. But then there's this debate about who gets paid what for all of the stuff, that's online. If it wasn't about the money and you just wanted somebody to have access to the music, I mean, how would you do that in a way that retains the sacred value of that thing? That's an equal transaction, a two-way transaction. Somebody buying art, it's an equal transaction. Like you kind of get that, right? It's not so much with music anymore. The musician kind of gets the short end of the stick on that, which isn't the way it should be. But when you were talking about doing streaming shows where the access is controlled, I guess is a good way of saying it. Like if I bought a ticket to your show, I could see the show and also be able to get the replay, if you will, right? That's a good thing. I mean, I that's great for me, because then I can always go back to that moment in my life where I was listening to Chris play and re-experience that wonderfulness that happened in that moment. I mean, that's an amazing use of technology, because it used to be back in the day, you missed the concert. All you could do
That's
is
it.
read the review, right? There's no way to hear it. And we want to be able to extend that way in some equitable form so people can experience the thing that was so wonderful, right? And offer it to their friends. Maybe we go back to listening parties. Remember back, I don't know if you're old enough, but I remember my aunt and uncle had this new stereo console when I was a baby. It's like this piece of furniture that had all of, the speakers were in there and the turntable and the amp. And they'd have listening parties and people would come over and sit around and they'd listen to the latest, LP. And maybe that's how we need to sort of regroup, find ourselves able to replay video content. Everybody's coming over to watch the movie, right? Or replay concert content. Everybody comes over to watch the concert that they missed. And I, as your friend, share that with you, right? That's legal use. If I charged you for it, it wouldn't be, but that's legal use. And if we can somehow encourage that part of it, as well as having the streaming available, then hey, fantastic. I'd love to get a group of people together. Like Barry wasn't able to attend. I was in New York, you're in Vancouver. Get a listening party together or a watch party together, right? What happened to that anymore? And what a great way of being able to participate in the event, whether or not it's live, but theoretically it would be. But what a great way to participate in the event, right? That's what we want to promote, especially when it comes to the sacredness of healing music. If there's a way to do that in that context, right?
Yeah.
And, I don't know. What do you think? Does healing music work in that kind? I mean, it must work at a distance because it's music. But, all things being the same, if you're not in the room, do you have the same kind of experience or can you deliver the same kind of experience? Can we deliver that if we stream it?
I mean, I used to think that it was an immediate no. I used to think there's no way that you're going to be able to replicate what's happening in real life through through your Ethernet, through the internet, and then back out through your speakers and all that, like the loss of quality of audio, et cetera, et cetera. But then I've had experiences that have, and friends of mine who have proven that theory not wrong, but you're never going to have the same effect as what is happening in real life when you're in the room, in a sound healing experience or just in a concert. You're never going to have that. Even if you have advanced virtual reality, augmented reality situation, like, some meta, whatever universe technology crap, whatever way you want to throw at it technologically, you'll never, ever have the same nuances and experiences as the physical body being in the physical space of this other artist performing this music. You'll never have that. However, the effects of that music and the effects heard by that artist can absolutely be felt throughout the internet. And it's because it's the energy as well of that person. And when I say energy, it's their personality, it's their aura, it's their not just the music coming off of them, it's their persona, it's that individual's energetic resonance that shoots out when they perform, when they're at their most sort of, when they're in their element, so to speak. And so you see that, you hear that through your speakers, and you're still getting a lot because you're getting that person's essence then through the music as well. And any good artist who I've now experienced, or I've even had some friends of mine who have given me sound baths over Zoom, and I'm the first to admit that. I'm like, thank God I had access to that, because it really helped, and I really benefit from it.
Do you have a feel for how much of it gets through? Like if 100% is you live in the room, how much percentage-wise gets through via streaming service or via audio only? Or, I mean, it's like watching a baseball game at the stadium versus listening to it on the radio back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, they're also different experiences. It's like if I'm going to go to an online concert, I feel like I'm going with a different energy than I'm going to be going to that concert in person anyway. But to answer your question, in terms of audio fidelity, the quality, I would say you're probably looking at like maybe 70% you could get through, which is pretty decent, especially if it's not bad. I think with technology and the way it's all looking like right now, if you have a really good setup, I don't know, especially if it's a simple performance, which is probably more of the recommendation to do these things with maybe just a couple of instruments and a voice. So as an example, so my friends who do sound baths, they sing and they play their crystal healing bowls. That's it. So those are the two things going on. So because there's just the two things happening. There's less, options for interference or things dropping out of the mix and stuff like that. So the simpler your setup, the better the audio quality, I would say, as well. And if you're a vocalist in particular and you really don't have much, sometimes you sing a cappella as well, you're really not going to there's not going to be too much of a like lost, like people get a pretty good sense of everything that you're delivering there. And then as the listener, I'd recommend experiment between listening with like nice headphones versus going through speakers and letting your body feel the vibration of that performance too, and see what that kind of feels like. So it's like, it's never going to be the same thing because you can't replicate being in a physical environment with these people and interacting with their energies and their, just the vibe of the event in general in that space. But you can get a lot of the effects of the music. So that's what I've been able to experience. And that's why I'm now going back and starting to offer all my shows online now, because I want that ripple effect of the healing music to get out to more people. And then if obviously online just makes that more feasible. So there's pros and cons, like with anything, right?
Sure. I'm convinced that the energy of the performer doesn't need, all of the technology to get through. That's going to take, that has its own channel.
That's quantum mechanics. That's like
quantum mechanics,
quantum
right.
Entanglement is instantaneous.
Yeah. So that's all good for me. Where I wonder about things, and I read ages ago, it's got to be at least 10 years on this, about how they do compression of audio. I know it's the same for video. And basically, if you're thinking about this and you can see a ruler in front of you, just visualize a ruler. Sound that fills the entire ruler is uncompressed sound. It's just pure audio, the way you might get it off of an LP if you were playing that with a needle and speakers, right? The old-fashioned way. Compressed audio, they start to remove bits of that. So maybe every inch, there's a 1-inch segment that's removed, and that audio is easier to transport because it's smaller. And our ears and brains reassemble the missing bits, right? So there's a higher CPU cycle, brain cycles required in order to listen to music like that, which means like playing relaxing music that's over the internet, or even listening to it from old versions of iTunes or Spotify, probably. Your brain is working harder than if you heard that music uncompressed from a CD on your own, right? Single source.
That makes sense to me.
And I'm wondering where we are on that now, because HD is getting better. Actually, HD is what we used to call television when it was uncompressed. But they're now restoring some of the missing parts of that, so our eyes don't work as hard to see HD streaming stuff as they used to. I'm wondering where we are with audio on that, because bandwidth is so amazing anymore, and music is just tiny compared to video. Have you read anything recently? Are CDs actually being resampled and streamed uncompressed now? I know Spotify gives you options for HD and regular quality or whatever, but do you have any knowledge on that? Because to me, it seems that specifically with healing music, if you are making this music for an audience, whether they're live in the room or somewhere else, you want to have the best possible effect. And knowing that your video and audio streams have been compressed, i.e., some of the sound has been removed. Therefore, your consumers are working harder to have the same experience. That doesn't seem, I don't know, like the best possible representation of what we have to give,
That makes me think, Bill, like I think we're moving into an era where there's maybe a lot of different types of ways to consume the same content, for example.
Yeah.
So you're going to have the studio album, which is that, yes, it'll be available on Spotify, which you can listen to compressed or non-compressed if you want. And you have that option, or you can buy directly from the artist, or, actually order the physical copy, which most artists still have that as an availability, or, even buying vinyl. You can always go do that. Go to the source, buy it from them. Some artists now are selling, like I'm going to be starting to sell a lot of my healing music on my own website, that you can purchase it directly from me. And that way you're going to get really high quality. As you're saying, this uncompressed, you're absolutely right. Pure, all the tones, all the frequencies that were put into it are going to be coming through. That is still the prime high quality audio experience, with the exception of the live show in person. So there's that degree. You've got kind of that, like, maybe let's call that the top of the pedestal for audio quality and audio experiences. However, there's other experiences that are fruitful and pretty amazing, but they might not have the same audio quality. But when you're doing a live stream, you're getting a different energy. You're getting that, well, it's a live performance. Yes, I know I can't be there in person. And yes, I know this isn't the same, but with this artist, and I know with people like you and me, Bill, like every show is different for us. And the way that we're feeling in each show is going to be a different performance because of that. And especially with the music that, that I'm doing, it's highly improvised a lot. So you're always going to be getting something different. And for that reason alone, if it's a live stream, then great. At least I can experience that thing. And yes, I know it's a little bit different audio quality, but that's okay. I know that going into it, and I'll save my money, for like the big, record purchase later. But for right now, I'll hop on a quick live stream and just get a nice taste, because I'm feeling that right now. So yeah. I feel like there could be these sort of tiers of experiences that, I don't know if it degrades the music. I mean,
no, not about that at all.
Yeah.
But I think offering the choice is wise. I mean, you could offer your the video recording of it on a DVD as well, for people who want to see the visual. But choosing your level of engagement. How about that?
Yeah.
If you want the standard definition audio, it's less expensive than high definition audio, which is less expensive than the video feed, right? All of these things could apply, because you might be wanting to participate and you're in the car.
And you know what? To take that one step further, I just was also realizing I'm starting to work with a virtual assistant, and she's helping me post on social media, because I literally don't do that. It's just not my jam, and that's fine. That's why I'm outsourcing it. And I've been talking to her about pieces of content to put out there. And one of the things that I'll be doing each week is just a video of myself playing piano, and it's recorded on my iPhone, and literally nothing else is going on. I plop the phone down, press record. That is it. So you're not getting any direct feeds into a mixing board or an interface. Like, this is, quote unquote, as low quality as we're going to get. Then it goes on social media, as we both know, that compresses the audio as well. So you're getting it, and it's free. It's social media. You're just going to grab it. Well, guess what? Some of my absolute favorite musicians, I don't go on social media often, but when I have, and I've seen some of their posts, like they're in their studio and they've got their phone and the phone's flopping around and it's not really well put together. And I love it. I love it because I feel like I'm there. I feel like I'm in this intimate sharing experience with this artist who I absolutely adore, and I'm being led into their life. And that's magical. And so ironically, this low quality experience, quote unquote, is actually something that I love. And so that's why there's these tiers of experiences where you could go from the phone recording of someone noodling, and that has a value to it. And that can even be monetized and all that kind of stuff too. But then we go up, I think at the top of that is the record or the CD, high quality experience / live experience. So you kind of have this range is what I'm seeing now.
Yeah, I like that. And that's, again, this is pre-attorneys, because they're going to figure out how to regulate all that stuff too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But, and why not? Right. So we have an expectation of quality that's defined, and maybe the music community takes care of that without the attorneys, or maybe they do. And then say the attorneys, this is how we're doing it now. Who knows?
That'd be nice. So we don't get, left
nice?
at the,
right.
in the gutter.
Right. Because a lot of that stuff that otherwise would be like on the cutting room floor is great to have.
It is.
And, I love, was it Gaga that put together that New Year's concert in New Year's 2020? I forget now. Mm-hmm. And people were just like on their iPhones. They literally had the iPhone sitting there on the piano or whatever, and they were doing their thing. And it was so raw, right? The one that sticks in my mind, and it's going to sound a little bit like a weird comment, but they had Elton John on a digital grand piano somewhere in his driveway, I think, outdoors with an iPhone. And no monitors, I don't know how they did it. And he gutted it out, man. He got through it, whatever it was he was playing. But I loved seeing him that exposed.
Wow.
It just made him feel more real.
Human, Yeah. Not so polished.
Not so polished. Gaga was the same. They had some people who had the set, and they had the reverb and stuff. I don't know. Celine Dion was on. She never sings without reverb, right? So they had her. But, just getting to that tiny desk level, without the tiny desk equipment, that gives you a new feel for the artists that you really resonate with.
Yep.
To see them sort of stripped of everything.
It's very humanizing, I find.
Yeah.
It's easy to build these people up in our minds as geniuses, which they are. It's not to take away from their genius, because they are incredibly gifted. But it doesn't mean like we all have that capability of genius within us. It's not that some people get and some people don't. It's a matter of accessing it. And the more we think it's outside of us, the more we think it's, oh, those people have it, but obviously I don't have well, then, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And this idea like of seeing Elton,
Yeah.
in his garage, probably having some technical difficulties and not having a perfect, situation.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Guess what? It happens to everyone. It's so nice to see, even to the greats. They're just human too.
Totally refreshing.
So refreshing. I actually love that. And it made me think too, like a part of this whole tier system of ways to experience music. There's also, like you were mentioning, recording the concerts and then selling them on DVD. Well, that's that higher level version of the stream concert, right? Because then those are like those are beautifully shot. Like I love cinematography and filmmaking, and I would be like those kind of shows. I would put a lot of time and effort and money into the shooting of it, and make sure it's a visual spectacle and an auditory spectacle as well. And so you get those things, and then you'd buy and so I can just see. And actually, in a very exciting way, this makes me as an entrepreneur also really excited, because I'm like, oh, so many different products, so many different ways to reach people now. It's kind of great. You get people for all kind of walks of life and places where you're at, and levels of interest in your music. You can just get to a lot more people now. I think that's really great, but we just have to recognize that.
The premium. Okay, so I can see you in the 2-camera shoot, right? Stationary cameras, and that's just not going to cut it for Chris. People, no. Chris is not going to be that kind of shoot. Eventually, Chris is going to be the guy that has a premium price for someone who has a virtual joystick and control the camera and where it looks, right? I can see that coming, right?
That's cool.
And we'll get the 360 thing going on, and all of that, right? And I can see that's where this is all headed.
I like that, Bill.
As a cameraman yourself, you're never going to know that the person that you hired is going to get the right shot.
No, yeah, that's you have to leave
it's
that
always orbiting in the back of your mind.
Oh, I know, and that's what if people are, because I work in film for the audience listening, I'm a cinematographer as well. So when I'm being filmed, I have to really, especially playing music. I was just performing at a museum like 2 months ago or something with another artist, and we were doing a shoot for this festival. Now it's online, right? So we were being filmed for this live performance, and the camera person's coming, and I was like, I'm playing, but then I'm looking over at her camera. I'm like, oh, she's shooting on the Blackmagic. I wonder if she's using the 6K or the 4K. And stop thinking about that, Chris. Stop thinking about it.
You got music.
You're performing. So you're not a cinematographer right now.
You're going to be the guy who has like a GoPro on his chest and on each hand and on your head, and there'll be a 4-camera shoot of Chris playing the piano. And probably a still looking back the other way, or maybe from left and from right. You'll have 7-camera shoot just for you.
As many sensory experiences as we can have, we're going to have them, basically.
Exactly.
And then you mentioned the 360, and that's another cool thing for people listening too. That's another feature that we can even access in this day and age, is you can do live streams with the 360 camera, meaning that the audience watching can, to a degree, click and scroll around in that space and take a look at different people doing different things, which is actually really fun. That's another way to experience it too.
Pan around the stage.
Yeah.
Do you get an spatial audio based on where the camera is directed?
I don't think so.
Not there yet.
But I could be wrong. I'm not sure exactly. I'm gonna know more about this in the next week, because I have to figure this out ASAP. I have a show next week that I
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. I have a show next week that I on the 7th of December, and I need to live stream that. So I'm telling people I'm going to do it. So I have to figure it out how to do it.
Well, unlike many of us, you already have the pro equipment you can use. So it's just a matter of how to integrate that with, Zoom or whatever your
platform,
your platform will be.
But I think it brings me back to a thought of, making music sacred again. And when, we can make it human, and people understand that these are we're humans expressing ourselves, and this idea of making music more collaborative. And I had a friend of mine back in Toronto who is a song leader, and he basically will go to different places and just play songs that are really easy for people to sing along to. You don't even need to know the song. They're just so good to have everyone sing along to. And I remember what he was telling me was that he's like, look, Chris, for the last 100 years, roughly, we've we've gotten out of what music used to be all about. Used to be about inclusion, and it used to be about community. It was never about, I am the musician, you can all watch me perform, and then you all stay quiet and watch me perform. Now, that is an experience, and I love those experiences too. But performing when, in this a sacred manner, in a sense where it's very intentional, you're all here to, yes, hear some music, but to share the music, to sing all together. And when you get everybody singing together and having that approach to music, that's very, I just keep using the word sacred because it feels intentional, it feels meaningful, and people go there with a very particular intention. Then all of a sudden there is, it's we're getting back to the origins and the roots of what music was for. And I find with this live streaming, the positive that I'm finding in it now, versus a year ago when I was really against it, which was it's actually it's humanizing these performers, and it's making music in a way sometimes more sacred because we value the live experience so much more now that we can see the contrast of going on Zoom and being like, okay, I checked out Chris's concert on Zoom. Really cool. It was great because I was, not in the city, and I was able to catch it, and I got some, good vibes and everything from it. Really cool experience. It now makes me want to really go experience him in person, because obviously that's going to be even more impactful, or more of what I'm seeking right now. So maybe in a weird way, all this crazy technology and compression and all this quality getting lost in the music is allowing people a chance to understand the beauty of certain experiences now that we maybe took for granted in the past.
As you were speaking, I was thinking of all of the symphony musicians who were recording themselves in their parking garages practicing, and putting that out, not live streaming it out. And eventually it got to be pretty well produced, and there was an actual thing around that. But the ability to be in the room, even if that was virtual, it was first of all novel, and then it became a kind of a sacred thing, because there you are kind of one-on-one. And I don't think a lot of those were live. It seems to me they just put them on YouTube and you go there, but there you are literally sitting, feet away from someone that you've seen from the nosebleed section, in concert. What a great experience just to be in that sort of intimate space, and to be able to be, to experience the humanness of what it takes to perform a part in an orchestra, or play bass in a band, or whatever that thing is, right? To be able to be that close to it. I keep thinking of Tiny Desk. Why do I keep thinking of Tiny Desk? But it's like that.
It's a great example, though.
It's definitely not an overproduced thing.
And for those listening, if you don't know what Tiny Desk is, it's NPR's Tiny Desk. It's a YouTube channel, National Public Radio in the US, and they just have the best concerts, and they do them also not on the Tiny Desk, meaning it's very acoustic and raw. They also have other ones as well, more full band, but the Tiny Desk series are the most intimate, kind of raw performances from all the top artists on the planet. Basically have now gone through there at one point or another, and it's a real treat. If you haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet, please do, because you will not be sorry you did so.
Yeah, and it's like half an hour. They're consumable. You don't have to sit for 2 hours or whatever. And you really get the best that people have to offer on that day, at that moment, right? The way they were. Because there are some people that get in there and you can tell it's just not their day, but they're still there and they're showing up and they still are amazing. They just don't have that. I mean, it's an energy thing. You start to read the energy after a while.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I heard somebody write about a Diana Krall concert or something, and it was like, well, she'd just gotten off the plane and blah, blah, blah. And it just, she was tired and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, gee, I'm glad I didn't see that concert. But the end of the review is, and she hit it out of the park. Right? It's like,
she's pretty awesome.
This is what we do, even if you're sick, you go on. If you dance with a broken foot, if that's what it takes,
artists can be real warriors,
Oh man. And it's incredible. It's incredible to understand what people have done to put on a show. Read the Keith Jarrett concert, the Cologne concert. If anybody who's listening, if you haven't, first of all, listened to Keith Jarrett's Koln, Köln is what I say for that. Am I right? I don't know if you speak German, correct me, or maybe it's Austrian. That concert, like, literally was not going to happen. It just was not going to happen for all these reasons. And he did it. And it is like one of the top live recordings ever in the world. And it's it's that kind of, that's the thing. Even if you weren't there, even if you were hearing it, in old, way compressed music, the story around how that took place just puts you in a different space.
See, I think you're hitting something here, Bill, with this, the story, right? People love to hear that things didn't work out. Not sometimes, yes, because, if you're a little bit miserable, then you're validated by other people's misery, but in a healthier sense, because that exists. But I think for the most part, people genuinely and generally love hearing that, because it's again, going back to being human, it's the humanitarian way that we can start to see, like, wow, like this person really clearly cares about performing for the people, to get that music. I mean, to fight through all those odds just to perform, just to play one show, but for you and me, like we get that. Like, I would do anything to perform, because there is this like almost sense of duty or honor and service to others in expressing our gifts, and it just happens to be through the medium of music. And I remember one of my favorite bands growing up was Blink-182, pop punk band, and I was obsessed with their drummer, Travis Barker. He's an insane drummer. I mean, there's no matter if you like the music or not, everyone would always marvel at his virtuoso drum playing. And one tour, he broke his arm. And of course, as a drummer, that's a pretty big blow to your performance situation. It was, I think, his dominant arm too. Is like his right arm. Yeah. So it was like the worst one to break. And instead of canceling the tour, what does he do? He designs this contraption that allows him to use his feet to play as if like part of what his right hand would be doing on probably most likely hitting his snare drum. And so he designed this thing that basically allowed, like, he had to do a lot more with his feet, but he'd be able to operated in a sense to be able to play the songs just like he did, or at the very least closer to, and it still sounded ridiculous. And what he could do too, like just three limbs versus the four, was still incredible. So to see this person against these odds, and he's still doing his solos, and then the drum kit, is on these platform that lifts up and then rotates and then goes upside down as he's soloing, and broken arm, and you're like, this is what I love it. People ate it up. It made it more memorable, as you're saying. It was the story, right?
It's the story.
I love it.
and the only reason I've had any success at all with a one-man show is because of the story in it. And that's almost more compelling than the music. The music is sort of the accompaniment to the story, in a way.
Do you tell stories at your shows? Do you like?
So people who don't know, I used to do this a lot. Probably it's been since the mid 2000s that I haven't done many of them, but I would simply go on stage with the story of my life and provide musical accompaniment to that. So this is why I'm still playing the piano, the 12th Street Rag, whatever, in 5th grade, all the way up to shadow work that I've done later in life, and playing the song that kept me alive, and then playing the contrasting song, that's like the what happens next kind of stuff. So those stories are what made it work. Anybody can play the music, but offering the stories, it's like so much better than just showing up and there's a program and then you're just ticking things off as the performer goes through the program, right?
Yeah.
That's that classical sort of experience. It works fine in recitals, but it isn't me. And so and offering all different genres. I mean, good heavens, when you go to hear a piano concert where there's one person responsible for 12 genres of music, right?
Yeah.
And making it all work somehow. So the stories are what make that work, to stick things together in a way that people can relate to. Otherwise, it's just like you're up there, they're there. But the humanistic part of it, is where you offer a story. And that's what pulls people in. And having said that, I've had the craziest reactions to all kinds of music. And I can sit here and honestly say that any kind of music is healing music, right? Yeah. There's the ambient stuff that we all think is healing music, right? The really, the stuff like you and I play, right?
Yeah.
It's that beautiful improvised melodic sort of soundscape stuff that works. And we all know those sounds that crystal bowls make, and the kind of droning of a didgeridoo that has a transportive stuff to it. But the Beatles are healing. Blink-182 is healing. I mean, pick any, if you love it, it's healing. It's your healing music, right?
Exactly. So death metal, doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, bring it on. And just saying to people, it's okay that you don't like classical music. So I'm going to play, John Cage's 4 minutes and 33 seconds.
You'll love it.
And you'll love it because you won't have to worry about whether it's classical.
Because there's nothing happening, quote unquote.
Nothing's happening, right? So the openness that exists, I've always hoped that we could get some participative stuff going, like your friend in Toronto, that's the song leader. And I have this crazy idea that we can do that we're in the age where we can do that.
I believe so.
A buddy's about to release an album, and I've convinced him, I think, to not release the whole album, but to release just one song and have that song be the song that people can sing along to, and ask them to send back their audio recordings of the last minute and a half of the song, singing along to it, right? And then edit all that together so that this song becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And build buzz that way rather than, marketing. But build buzz by actually having people participate in it and become part of the music. Why not, right? We can do that.
That sounds like way more fun marketing. It sounds also my business / life coach that I work with, she calls this heart marketing.
Yeah.
You're marketing with your heart. It's not this strategy to, manipulate or coerce, or not even necessarily that evil, but more just a kind of unintentional, just no heart in it. It's just, let's put some Facebook ads up there and hope for the best and just get some ticket sales or whatever. It's like, no. Like heart-based marketing, and, marketing, you just take that out. It's just heart-based intentionality with the release of your music. And that's a really great idea.
Isn't the opportunity for that? We've got all these, and 3D marketing works really well. Funnels, whatever, digital marketing, run a webinar, have 300 people in the room, and all you're really there to do is to tease them for the product you really want them to buy. And 10% of them will buy that in the back of, that whole stuff is like, come on, guys. Why can't we go for the heart? Why can't we go for the heart? And just
why can't that be hugely profitable too?
Well, exactly. Nobody else is doing it, so there's no competition. Well, or either that, or they don't know that they're doing it. I'm as sure as we're sitting here talking, people like Elton John and Lady Gaga, they've got to know that there's a heart connection there that happens on that authentic stuff where there's no lights, there's no band, there's it's just you. They've got to know that that's a heart connection, right?
I think some of them certainly do. I remember watching an interview with Alicia Keys, and
oh yeah, absolutely.
And she's extremely heart-based and very, very grateful and appreciative. You listen to her, she's extremely conscious and spiritual and awakened. She knows exactly what music does to people. And even people like Chris Martin, leader of the Coldplay, the way he interacts with the audience. Everyone that sees a Coldplay concert always, just since day one of them performing, have always said they're very euphoric because they get the crowds singing, and everyone's just all based in love. And Michael Jackson's famous for that too.
Oh my
His
gosh,
concerts are all based on love. The name of his last major tour that unfortunately got cut short because he passed away was literally called Love.
Yeah, it was Love.
And Daft Punk, the dance band Daft Punk, always sings about love. Always, every lyric from every song they have is almost all based on love or music. And you start to look at these big pop stars, and a lot of them really clearly understand it comes from the heart, and that's what's made them successful, is because people feel that. It's not just because they got lucky, it's because they're obviously talented and it came from the heart. People feel that. It wasn't fake. If it was put together and all synthesized and overproduced, those artists typically don't last the test of time. The Beatles last because they're just so, that came from the heart, and the talent was just, and the chemistry was just so good. It was so real that you couldn't dispute it. And still to this day, that's always where music comes from. The good stuff always comes from the heart. And I think we're getting back to that more, and people are becoming more aware of that. And that's what's starting to sell, even from a marketing and business standpoint. Lots of statistics are showing that no one wants to buy from a corporation anymore. People want to buy from people.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of social media influencers who are making a lot of money selling their own, whatever they're selling. It's their services, their merch, both, basically their lifestyle. And why not? Because it's
Yeah.
showing that people want to connect with people. And as you're saying, these live streams strip away a lot of the smoke and mirrors of performances, and getting to see these artists for who they really are. And just as a, I remember watching one of my favorite Icelandic composer artists, Olafur Arnalds, amazing composer performer. And he was doing a live Instagram on probably just like maybe the first 2 months into the pandemic. And he completely was messing up this synthesizer thing he was trying to show us. And he kept laughing because it kept messing up. And then his laughter was so contagious that I started laughing. And then he just started making jokes for the next 5 minutes about his, technology just had, it's never, there's a personality behind it because it always just messes up sometimes for no reason. And
Yep.
you start to go like, why? And you're like, so he's just going on this whole thing. And it was basically like, I remember it because nothing ended up happening. He couldn't even perform the music. And it was just a whole, like, basically what we would consider a train wreck, or like, oh no, I was going to go live and everything I wanted to do didn't happen. It turned out to be hilarious. And it was great. I found that was the performance. So it's
Probably got more views than anything else.
exactly.
So here's a question. What's your most embarrassing concert moment that turned out okay?
Oh, that's a great idea. Oh, okay. I got one that pops right into my head quickly. I remember I was in I think this was a cover band. No, this was my high school band. That's right. We were doing a battle of the bands. And we were at, I think, the next level of this tournament of the Battle of the Bands. We'd progressed to a new whatever. This is such a scam, the Battle of the Bands. But anyway, we won't get into that. So I just take advantage of a bunch of high school bands, basically, because they don't know any better. And so we were performing, and I was really getting into this one song. I was playing piano, and there was just this one big moment where I had to, smash the keys for extra effect, impact. And I did, and it was all on the low end of the keyboard. So my keyboard stand was not very well situated.
Oh, no.
And so it, boom, catapulted my keyboard up into the air. I grabbed it in the air before it hits the ground. And I just somehow, like, I couldn't play anything more, but I had to grab it. And then I kind of half fell to the ground holding my keyboard. Thank God it was basically at the end of the song. So everyone just thought I went like,
Nuts.
Like I went super rock and roll.
Yeah.
And just tried to like trash my keyboard. And so everyone thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I was mortified because I almost broke my keyboard by complete accident. So that was a really happy accident that everyone thought I was a rock star, and I did not correct them, but it was a complete and utter mistake.
Beautiful.
It looked cool.
Yeah, I can get the visual on this now. Okay,
Right?
so there's no reason to watch Chris's live stream.
Yes, he might break things, and it might turn into a better show.
Yeah. Or you could rig it up so that, anyway, special effects like the old fashioned way.
Oh yeah.
The keyboard rises off the stand.
Yeah. Except you see the strings pulling.
Yeah, the strings.
Yeah, exactly.
You can make it really cheesy and make sure that people see the strings.
I would actually probably lean into that. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured you would.
And what about you, Bill? What was one that pops out to you?
Also technology related, but not quite as bad as the synth thing with, I'm going to look him up. Olafur Arnalds. Right?
Oh, amazing. You won't regret it. He's
I'll look him
brilliant.
up.
Yeah.
Old keyboard, but I try to play everything on an acoustic instrument. In this one case, it wasn't going to happen. I convinced them. They had a keyboard. They wanted me to use that. I'm like, no, I'm bringing my keyboard. You want me to play? I get to bring my keyboard. Yeah, okay, fine. So I bring the keyboard. Well, for those of you who don't know, the Yamaha S90 ES has a few firmware bugs. And one of them is that if you haven't changed a patch for a long time, the keyboard at some point may actually change the patch for you.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I'm doing the whole concert in sort of like the natural piano setting. And it has about 8 or 9 piano settings, sampled settings. And one of them is like, a ragtime piano that's totally out of tune, totally honky tonk, right? You could tell right away if that were to happen that there was a different instrument that had been selected.
Absolutely.
Well, that is the patch that it decided to use. About 32 bars from the end of Rhapsody in Blue.
Oh, God.
And there's nothing you can do. I mean, you can change it. If you had foot pedals, you could change it instantly, but it takes like at least 2 button clicks to change a patch. And you're not going to take your hands off the keyboard 32 bars away from the end of Rhapsody in Blue. There's no place to do that.
No.
There is just no space where you could do that, right? So that happened. And I played the rest of Rhapsody in Blue, which is like the wrap up of the whole show on what now sounded like a ragtime piano.
We're going to go a little Western for you guys right now.
Yeah. So it was totally honky tonk. And the good news is, of course, I was playing for an audience of older people, so not many of them could hear anything.
I think that's the solution, Bill. Just play for a bunch of slightly deaf people that just won't notice the difference.
Yeah, I know.
I think that's so funny. Man, have I been there too. And you just click the wrong button.
Or you intentionally hit the wrong patch, and you're in this
completely different sound.
Peaceful moment, and all of a sudden,
oh man! I remember once playing a reggae show not too long ago, actually, but with my old reggae band back in Toronto, and there's this soft, jazzy interlude moment, and like lead singers talking to the audience, and songs about peace and about love.
I can see the train coming now.
Yeah, I know, right? And then Chris is playing the soft piano, and then I accidentally switched. I thought it was going to be to a really soft melodic electric keys, and it was kind of the same thing. It was like this harsh, distorted harsh, distorted kind of piano, specifically for a very particular song. Anyway, not that one. And it was just like, dun, dun, ding,
yeah,
really audible clonk. And then my lead singer looks back at me. And he's like, except not like that.
Exactly, right.
He's like, don't follow whatever the hell Chris is doing right there. And I was so going so red. I'm like, I'm sorry, Sheldon, it wasn't my fault. But he was joking, because every musician knows that that stuff happens all the time.
Oh yeah,
happens all the time. Mistakes happen all the time. I was working with a friend who's just new on her music journey, and but very gifted, but very new on it. And I was telling her that, look, every show you'll ever do, there's going to be something that goes wrong.
Oh yeah,
quote unquote. You're not going to ever play a quote unquote perfect show, whatever that even means, right? Because first of all, that's just not how music works. And second of all, that's how you get as what Bob Ross would call the happy accidents,
Yeah, the happy accidents.
Right. So you get all these happy accidents that you don't want to miss out on. So if you're hyper focused on not basically screwing up, not only are you going to not have a very good, fluid, organic performance, because you're so caught up in overthinking things, basically, that you're probably going to inevitably screw up even more because you're so hell bent on not screwing up instead of just playing. And when you do inevitably make a mistake, the real key is to just keep going with it. You just move with that and embrace it and just keep moving with it. And that's a good metaphor for life, because obviously this doesn't just pertain to music and being a musician, right?
It's those nuances that happen that make it all work. And if you're like the guy who I've got a buddy with a recording studio who loves the Beatles, and he will listen to them in noise canceling headphones over and over and over and over. He's heard stuff on their albums, like released albums, airplanes, bus horns, whatever. It's all in there.
Wow.
And we would never know. But if you're listening and you have any idea of like what the instrumentalist is doing, what the singer is doing, you can hear all this stuff. And if you start to watch for it, you'll pick up their habits and tics and different things. And it becomes a part of what makes them them, makes their music essentially theirs, right?
Oh yeah.
Nobody else plays exactly that way. And
that's the beauty of it.
It's the beauty of it, right? Dr. John is a great one to listen to if you're into that kind of stuff, because that cat never plays the same thing twice.
Yeah.
Right. And he loves to record exposed albums, like in his studio where it's just him and the piano. And when you get that raw, you can really hear what makes Dr. John Dr. John. And it's not playing perfectly. I'll just give you a little hint. It's not playing perfectly. It's playing musically.
Mm.
And it is so cool to hear somebody in that place that exposed, right?
Yep.
Just going for it. Who's the other guy? Robert Downey. Not Robert Downey. Harry Connick Jr. He's a junior too.
Yep. Yep.
Amazing musician. And when he plays out, even if it's just a little bit, it is so beautifully intentional that you even if it's in like some Louisiana blues kind of thing, it's just gorgeous to hear that happen. And it wouldn't be the same music without it.
I mean, it makes me think back to Oliver Arnolds. He is famous also for, there's a couple of software instrument companies that literally emulate his recording style. And
no kidding.
He's got a whole patch with a program. Spitfire Audio has a whole series of his curated instruments and all this stuff, because Oliver's also an engineer, an audio engineer as well. Mm-hmm. And so his sound, he's really created this soft felt piano tone that has all the nuances. So he records all the noise of specifically he mics the pedal. So the clunk, clunk of the pedal, the up and down of the felt pad on the strings of the piano and the mallets and everything
damper
like that.
Whoosh.
The damper whoosh, everything, every little nuance of the piano. He puts mics specifically to record the quote unquote, not mistakes, but the stuff that most recordings try to get out of the recording.
The mechanical noise.
The mechanical noise. Like when you hear the piano playing, half of his piano is the noise of the piano, not just the notes of the piano, but it's such a style and it's so emotional. Like you hear it and you're like,
I'm excited. I want to hear
this. Yeah. And it's because it captures so much of that essence. Another piano player that has a very similar style is Niels Fram, Niels Fram, Nils Fram, Farhm, and similar exact kind of thing. Another artist who is emulated with other software instruments that were created after that same style of, like Dr. John being in that room and getting all the room, getting all of the stuff outside that most people want to cancel out. Get that too. Yeah. Get it all in there. Get the imperfections. That's what makes it unique. So,
yeah, I'm happy that we're in an era where overproduced stuff still exists, but coexists alongside raw stuff.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel so good to see so many artists, like top 40 artists, who are just doing stuff in their home studio and releasing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
We get to see them sort of in development and what it's like as they're, when they've got a new song and they're going to premiere it now, just them and the guy and a guitar sitting there, singing this brand new piece of music for the first time ever in public, theoretically. That's an incredible experience. And that's happening all over the place.
I know.
It doesn't matter, how big the name is. Lots of people are releasing music, right? Then at a rate that is astounding and also wonderful. Like, bring it, right? Let's hear the music.
Yeah.
And we can hear people from Iceland, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, you'd have to go to Iceland to hear a concert.
Yeah.
Right. Now you can at least get the recordings, and even better, now we can live stream.
I know.
Right.
It's amazing. Like it's all about the technology is never the enemy. It's always the content.
Oh no, technology is always the enemy, dude.
Yo, screw technology, man.
The bane of my existence.
Except, wait, what are we recording on right now?
I know. And what do we play on when we have to go anywhere?
Yeah.
I know.
No,
I just have this ongoing love-hate relationship with my tech.
Oh, I think everyone does. And I do too, but it is love and hate. It's both.
It's as good as you can get.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
And if it's really good, then the tech itself will remind you of your fallibility and instantly bring you to a level of humility you've never experienced live on stage.
Oh, this tech's too good. It's too raw. I'm hearing too much myself.
Exactly.
I love it.
So have we solved the live stream question? At least put a stake in the ground for where we both are today?
I feel a lot better about it. I feel like we have a better understanding of this. It's like a multi-level experience of music now. It's not just I get to buy a CD and I listen to it. There's so much more. We have so many more ways to consume art, nowadays. So I think that's awesome. I think we need to lead into it, but I also think we don't want to lose, and I don't think we will. I know we won't, but I don't want to lose the origins of music too, which is, that in person, maybe sitting around a campfire and playing some songs with your friends too. I mean, that's just as important as streaming your top favorite artists or going to those online shows. It's a multi-tiered, experiential situation.
I love the fact that we can make music out in the wild. It's been a dream of mine for a long time. And I think John Tesh actually did this, hauled a grand piano to the top of some mountain someplace and then filmed himself playing there. Wouldn't that be the peak experience?
Yes.
But how about having an audience? I mean, I've seen people, hike up to the top of 14,000 peaks with their with their cello or something on their back and record the Bach suites up there,
Mm.
with real video and real audio, but in that environment, and pity the poor cello, because I don't know how instruments that are made of wood respond to that kind of ordeal. But anyway,
Yeah.
right. So maybe with solar and something, we can hike with a keyboard to the top of some place in the Cascades and actually have a concert up there and live stream that. Because for heaven's sakes, we've got, what is it, the Skylink thing that's up there now. This is technologically, it's possible to do a concert from the top of a mountain.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? I know another Icelandic. I have a thing for Icelandic music, and their art scene there is, it's amazing for such a small country. The vibrancy of that culture. But anyway, another band, Sigur Rós, one of their more famous bands from Iceland, they had a whole concert sort of tour throughout Iceland that was about, they were all in remote locations. They were all in
Perfect.
like, one was like an abandoned missile silo. The other was in the middle of a forest. One was near this epic waterfall, etc. And the audience, there would be a couple thousand people coming to the show, and they had to have these very specific directions, taking this, route to this hike, to this thing, and to get to the show, right?
Yeah.
To get to these mystical, beautiful, incredible places. And so they kind of did exactly what you were saying there, which was, not only are they taking the instruments to these pretty incredible locations, but yeah, bring the audience too in real life, have them come in real life, and then live stream it too. Why not?
Why not?
The whole 9 yards.
Make it all happen.
Make it all happen.
So I'm down for that. I'll continue to work on my dream of a concert grand on the top of a mountain. But in the meantime, we got live streaming from the living room, right?
Yeah. In my pajamas.
Yeah, exactly. Or from the top, up.
Pajamas, that's the Zoom look, right?
Yeah, the Zoom look.
Pajamas on the bottom half, the tuxedo on the top.
Tuxedo, yeah, there you go. Or a tuxedo T-shirt. Why go all out?
Yeah, that's true. Still Zoom.
Still Zoom.
I love it.
So we'll have to put all these Icelandic bands in the show notes.
Okay.
For no other reason than I want to hear them.
Yep.
And who knows? Maybe somebody else will too. And I agree. By the way, we've been watching some Icelandic cinema, both series and actual movies. That the actors are largely Icelandic, but to go up there and film like pretty much in the dark, a lot of the time
in the winter, certainly,
and have it work. And the writing's incredible. Of course, it's all translated. You get subtitles. I don't care. It's better TV than I've seen, coming out of the studios. So go for it.
Oh, I know. The music's insanely amazing there. The cinema is incredible. The thing about Iceland too is that so many films have gone to Iceland to film. Like Tom Cruise has filmed many. Like Ridley Scott's got a couple of his films done there. I mean, just so many major, like Game of Thrones, etc. Star Wars. Everyone's filmed in Iceland. A lot of the time, Iceland's actually used as an alien planet. It's used a lot of the time as an alien planet, because there are some real otherworldly looking places in Iceland. It's on my bucket list. I've yet to be there. For someone who's been obsessed with that place since I was a teenager, I haven't been yet. I gotta get
time
there.
To go.
Time to go.
It's becoming crowded.
It is.
Lots of tourism.
A lot of tourism. It's very popular now, but that's okay. I'm gonna still go meet all my favorite artists, so it's gonna happen. I'll let you know.
Yeah, do that.
Yes, we'll put in the show notes, but I think we got a good kind of conversation here about music, where we're at right now with experiencing it in general, right?
Yeah, and hey, if you're listening and you want to add something to this, some weird kind of crazy experience that's possible with technology these days, let's do that.
Yes, I'm sure there's stuff that we've missed, and if you know of it, please let us know in the comments, because well, hey, the more ways that we can get our music and other musicians can hear this and figure out how to get their music out to more people, and other ways that people can experience music, because in this crazy world we live in, anytime you can feel some healing vibrations, I think is a good thing. Absolutely.
And by the way, so request for anyone who's listening, if you have a favorite bone conducting headphone, doesn't have to be Bluetooth, although that's convenient, but bone conducting headphones, I'm interested. Let me know what you think. If you've tried any, what they are like. If you don't like them, why? Just post in the comments, because that's a great way of getting the vibration like right on your skull, which is exactly what we want, right? We want the music vibrating right inside your head.
Can you quickly explain that, Bill? Because I'm actually not as familiar with that either.
Oh, like bone conducting?
Yeah.
So there's technology basically that takes a speaker and rests it on your skull. And instead of hearing with your ears, you sort of hear through the vibration of your skull.
Oh, I have heard of that.
And it's really kind of cool. So they used to be like resting on the top of your skull, but now they've got them miniaturized. And there's a little bone that's like right behind your ear. If you like press right behind your earlobe, you'll feel it. And I think that's where the little thing rests and it plays music there. And it's the weirdest dang thing, because if you did bone conducting only, you wouldn't be hearing with your ears. You'd be getting that vibration. If you go to the audiologist for any reason, they'll give you these as part of the test. You'll get the bone conducting headphones as part of the test. And they're used. Advanced Brain Technologies, I think, is an outfit out of Provo, Utah. If I have that wrong, Alex, don't hate on me. Alex Doman is the CEO. But Advanced Brain Technologies records and sells music for a purpose, and the bone conducting headphones are part of that. Okay. So that it gets right into your, like the vibration is right there, literally in your head.
That's so, like, what a way to experience music. I haven't had that experience yet, so I'm writing that down too, because I want to experience that.
Think about a silent disco. Have you ever done a silent disco?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, with the bone conducting headphones, would be really cool.
And for those listening, if you don't know what a silent disco is, it's just dance party, but everyone's wearing headphones. DJ sending out the music wirelessly to your headphones, so it's quiet, but you're dancing, obviously, because you can hear the music on your headphones.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Really cool. Actually.
So we got a whole other podcast going, but sorry to take a little more time. If you know anything about bone conducting, have had any experience with it, let me know. Athletes, I guess, use them. Runners use them a lot. They're pretty light because they don't require the big magnets, like in our Sonys and stuff.
Interesting. We'll have to check it out. But yeah, I think we'll end things here for this episode, and
let's wrap it up.
We'll wrap it up. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for listening in on our conversation and for taking time to show your appreciation with a like, share, or subscribe. Discussions of Music, Healing, and Consciousness is a practice of spontaneity, and we welcome your comments, ideas, and questions. There are ways to connect with us in the show notes, so let us hear from you. Until next time, this is Bill Protzman along with Chris Noble wishing you great musical health. Samara Huchaya.